We'll ask Miss Angie Fuller if she would to lead us in the pledge tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Miss Patty. So everyone's here except for Miss Clejo and Miss Angie. Do we have anyone on the public input? No names, okay. Moving right on to item E, approval of the agenda. If you'll take a look at that.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve by Ms. Leakey.
Second.
Second by Ms. Roberts. All those in favor, let me know by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Going on to F, approval of the consent agenda. If you want to take a look at that. Are there any questions over items 1 and 2?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Ms. Roberts and a second by Ms. Leakey. All those in,
Quick question, so it says field trips, but there's nothing? Oh, okay. Thank you.
so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, let me know by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. That takes us to item G, the director's report.
Okay, first up, as Ms. Hannah Dwyer from the University of the South, will be presenting a senior year research project on alternative schools.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Today we'll be presenting my project on policy implementation in Tennessee. Disciplinary alternative schools. So first I'll give you a little introduction, motivations for the research, defining what an alternative school is, what its historical significance is. Then I'll move on to the prior research, what scholars have found, and then how I designed my study and the methodology. Then I'll move on to what I find and what I found in Franklin County in the Franklin County Alternative School. And then I have some policy recommendations and how we can move forward from my research findings. So firstly, I just want to say thank you for having me here today. And just a little introduction to myself. My name is Hannah Dwyer. I recently just graduated from Sewanee in May. I majored in politics and French with 2 majors, in politics and French. And I just moved back to my hometown of Nashville. I am doing Teach for America, and this upcoming year I will be teaching first grade ELA and social studies. I'm very excited. So during my 4 years at Sewanee, I worked for the Franklin County Prevention Coalition with Ms. Felicia and Eric. It was a wonderful time, and I learned very much. It was during this time that I taught lessons at the Franklin County Alternative School, and this really changed my preconceived notions, or the preconceived notions that I had about alternative school students, that they were just bad students that needed to be in a different school. And so when I had the opportunity to pick a different research, to pick a research topic, I decided to study alternative schools, and specifically the Franklin County Alternative School. This project was supported by the Gesell Fellowship in Social Ethics, which is a fellowship that supports independent student research projects and on social ethics issues. So I wanted to answer questions such as, what are the ethical implications of our current alternative schools? What are potential alternative school policy reforms? And how can we make education equitable for all students, including those who misbehave? And I decided to address these questions through a policy lens. So, alternative schools really find their start in the civil rights movement, when civil rights leaders were trying to establish equity between black and white students. However, this changed in the 1980s when alternative schools shifted from being used to address the needs of students and really having that flexibility to do so, to being more for the punitive correction of student behavior. This really brings us to alternative schools today. There isn't one universal definition of alternative schools, but the US federal government defines it as any public elementary or secondary school that addresses the needs of students that typically cannot be met in regular school, provides non-traditional education, serves as an adjunct to a regular school, or falls outside the categories of regular, special, or vocational education. And then alternative schools from this can fall into type 2 and type 3 alternative schools. So type 2 alternative schools are schools for students who are at the last step before expulsion, and type 3 alternative schools are schools that pay special attention to students facing academic, social, and emotional issues. And then alternative schools are going to differ as they typically have smaller class sizes, more flexibility for students, one-on-one interactions with teachers. These schools offer supportive environments and encourage sustainable sustainable student success. However, the system is a bit fragmented as there's no primary federal agency for overseeing alternative education and no way of tracking its funding or alternative school outcomes. This lack of structure leaves us with the questions of how effective are they, what's going on in alternative schools, what are alternative school outcomes. So this brings me to my literature review. What's the prior research on this? So we really start at No Child Left Behind, which was passed in 2001 to improve student test scores through test score reports and punitive sanctions. There are two main points I want to make with No Child Left Behind. One is the increased accountability pressure that schools face, and zero tolerance policies. So after No Child Left Behind was passed, schools face increased accountability pressure, which basically means that schools face this increased pressure to meet the expectations that were put on them, to increase their test scores, to improve behavior, and so on and so forth. Scholars actually found that with this increased accountability pressure, student misbehavior or student behavior was worse. With No Child Left Behind, there was also the implementation of zero tolerance policies. Zero tolerance policies aim to send the message to students that certain behaviors will not be tolerated by punishing all offenses severely, no matter how minor. In No Child Left Behind, this is outlined in the Gun-Free Schools Act. But as it's been implemented in the states, it's been expanded to include other offenses. So zero tolerance infractions in Tennessee include no firearms on school property, assault, drug possession, and threats of violence. When it comes to alternative school policy, specifically, there's not much research on it at all. There are only 2 national studies on alternative school state policies. And from these 2 studies, there are 4 general themes that we can talk about. So they found that there was an increase in alternative school policy and definition adoption across states. There was no consistent funding method across states. This is pretty significant. 95% of states reported inadequate funding as a major barrier to alternative education programs. And then they also outlined 4 general criteria across states for student enrollment in alternative programs. These were meeting at-risk criteria, being suspended or expelled from home schools, being disruptive in the general environment, and not achieving success in the traditional school setting. And then researchers outlined some challenges faced in alternative schools, which are a lack of access to library, PE, and science lab services, And these challenges are especially pronounced in rural areas. So, after gathering all this research and information, all this prior research, I designed my methodology. I decided that I wanted to interview people in Franklin County, and having prior experience with the Franklin County Alternative School, I wanted to go down in Franklin County and ask educators, school leaders, school board members about their experience with the alternative school. So I spent about a year doing this project. I got institutional review board proposal and approval, and I interviewed 6 people and asked them questions about their classroom experiences, certain state and federal policies, and how those policies affected them in the classroom, just really trying to see what implementation looked like and how that affected discipline and specifically the alternative school. And then it was from this that I found 4 different themes. The number 1 theme that I observed was the mention of the zero tolerance policies. So we already see how this federal policy, No Child Left Behind, and the implementation of those zero tolerance policies is affecting us even on the local level. Once I saw how prominent zero tolerance policies were, I turned towards the code of conduct and saw that the Franklin County zero tolerance policies include bomb threats, possession of firearms on school grounds, assault of school staff, threats of mass violence, and unlawful possession of any drug or controlled substance on school grounds. And then specifically in my interviews, I found that participants mentioned lower enrollment with an increase in zero tolerance policies. So as these zero tolerance policies were being enforced, they saw a lower enrollment in the alternative school. And they explained this by saying that students with more minor misbehaviors were being kept at school, and that teachers were expected to deal with that. And then students with what they deemed more major misbehaviors were sent to the alternative school. And then more specifically, 4 out of 6 participants noted vaping and THC use during our conversations. And this is because the majority of the students, if not all of the students at the alternative school, are enrolled for these infractions. As you can see on the quote on the screen, this participant noted how the students have substance misuse issues, but the problem isn't necessarily being tackled. And that's a theme that I saw throughout the interviews. Another theme that I saw was the mention of disciplinary and teaching philosophies. While we have generally punitive policies, such as these zero tolerance policies, as well as going to the alternative school, I generally observed more rehabilitative methods employed, such as students having to write a 250-word essay when they go to the alternative school. In this essay, they have to accept responsibility for what they've done, and they have to say, this is why I'm at the alternative school. It just encourages them to accept responsibility, and that's how they start their time there. Then every 20 days, the teachers and director of the school have meetings with the students and their families, showing how the school meets students where they're at, students and families where they're at. And then some other themes that I saw throughout the interviews in these disciplinary and teaching philosophies were efforts to reintegrate students, natural consequences, self-reflection, and accepting responsibility. And so in this quote on the screen, you can see one of my participants talking about how he has this one angry student who comes into the alternative school every day, and he was like, but you can't come in angry because I'm here to help you. This is supposed to be a friendly place. And so this participant wanted to define the alternative school as a friendly place for the student. Kind of, it was interesting to see how he brought more of his, like that type of philosophy into the alternative school. Then the third theme I saw was flexibility. So many of my participants talked about how disciplinary cases, it's important to be flexible with them because each case has different circumstances, and you need to address each one according to those circumstances. In this quote right here, you can see how the participant noted that you know, sometimes it's good for the child to go to the alternative school. It may be good for them, or sometimes it doesn't work, or you know, it may be good for them to be removed for a period of time. We just need to look at the situation and account for that, for the flexibility that's needed. And lastly, I observed overall positive perceptions of the alternative school and alternative school outcomes from my interview participants, which is really meaningful to this study. From my conversations with my participants, I found out that there's not really a formal way of evaluating the alternative school. It's more so like having those conversations, which works for Franklin County because it is a smaller county and it's easy to have, for example, a conversation between the director of schools and the director of the alternative school. That works. And they can talk and they can have conversations about that recidivism. However, that may not work for a bigger county that has more alternative schools and more students. So in this case, I mentioned earlier how the system is a bit fragmented because we don't have a separate federal agency for alternative schools. But in this case, it hasn't caused an issue for Franklin County because it is a smaller county. And then on to my policy recommendations. The first one I have is to have a direct source of funding for alternative schools and increase funding for alternative schools. In my prior research, I found that you know, there isn't really this direct source of funding for alternative schools, and funding was often a barrier to alternative school enrollment. And so addressing that would be important to improving alternative school outcomes. I personally, with working with the Franklin County Prevention Coalition and going in and teaching students, I've seen firsthand how those additional resources are beneficial to the students. And so having that increased funding for more things like that would be beneficial. Second, gathering and reporting data on alternative schools. So throughout this research, I noticed it was really difficult to find this data on alternative schools. It was, for Tennessee specifically, the data set, the alternative schools were mixed in with the traditional schools, which you could find them, but in the case of the Franklin County Alternative School, the students still belong to their home schools, so that's still jumbled up. So it's really hard to track. And so if we can gather that data and report on it, we can more accurately track the outcomes of alternative school students and make sure that they're doing well, see what's going on, and how we can improve. And then the third one is rehabilitative discipline practices, keeping in line with what we've been employing already at the alternative school. This 250-word essay that I mentioned is just an example. The meetings with parents, just an example. But keeping in line with this flexibility, accountability, reflection, and reintegration, we've already seen it in our current alternative school, how it's been working for the kids. And so maybe even writing it into the alternative school policy would be a step towards policy reform for the alternative school. So, yeah, thank you. Are there any questions?
So you got into this because you started working with the Prevention Coalition
Yes.
and started working at the alternative school, which then made you sort of ask questions. Is that kind of the way it worked? And had you planned to go into education before all
No,
this?
I hadn't. I think teaching at the alternative school was a big inspiration for me to start teaching. Actually, I was trying to get away from teaching because my mom is a teacher, and she has been for over 20 years, and she was like, "You're not allowed to become a teacher." And so I kind of found this loophole through the Franklin County Prevention Coalition where they were like, "We need you to teach these lessons," and I was like, "Okay." And I really just enjoyed it. I loved working with the kids. So yeah, and I got really into it, and just being able to build those relationships with them.
And then just one more question. Did you talk to other districts at all to explore some of these kinds of questions or issues like library access, or is that just kind of general information?
That was more general information. Yeah, that was like in my literature review, which was tracking just like those were like national surveys on alternative schools, and I think all of my interview participants were in Franklin County.
Okay.
So that would be a great future direction.
Hannah,
Yes.
thank you for doing that, and thank you for sharing what you were able to research and document with all of us. I think as board members, we all want our alternative school to certainly serve the students who need that placement and also do it effectively. So anything that you might have learned that you might share on a one-on-one basis, we're willing to listen. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And I think there are some good policy recommendations too, because the funding is important. Like we have one, it's important that we have one. Funding, everybody likes to have things funded, so thank you for that section too, particularly.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Miss Rachel Brown, the district lead librarian.
I have my notes, because I didn't want to leave anything out. Good evening, everybody. In accordance with Board Policy 4.403 and the Tennessee Age Appropriate Act of 2024, I want to provide this update about what has gone on in our district to ensure that our school libraries are compliant with state law and with board policy. As a part of this review process, I can report to you that one book has been removed from circulation. It is entitled No David by David Shannon. It is a pre-K book. It has been removed from circulation because its illustrations depict nudity, and that does not comply with current legislative requirements. But I don't think it has left school property. I think it is put away in a cabinet. So that's an elementary book. I'm not sure exactly what they do with it. Since becoming the lead librarian in August of 2026, let me just tell you what I have done. I've worked with our district librarians to review the library collections, to evaluate the purchase requests, to provide professional development and support teachers and librarians as they navigate all of these new legal requirements that we keep getting. The implementation of the Age Appropriate Materials Act presented challenges for school districts all across the state of Tennessee. And while the law outlines what's prohibited content, it did not provide a definitive list of titles that we should be looking at. And so here in Franklin County, we just all kind of sat and looked at each other during our PLCs and went, okay, what do we need to do? So with our knowledge and our connections throughout the state, we relied on different counties. We looked at our books, we looked at lists, we read what was in the newspaper just like you did, we looked at what was on television just like you did, and we came up with sort of a list to check and see, because some of these things that we found were challenged in other districts, other states, and we wanted to make sure that they did not present a problem for us. So to assist with that process, we use the Atrium quarantine feature in our library management system. Now, there's been a lot of questioning and everything about that quarantine designation, but let me assure you that it is just simply an organizational tool that allows books that require more evaluation to be in a holding spot so that we can actually go back and look at those. And we want to make sure that a book that's not age appropriate gets into the hands of a student. So those books are there and they have that designation. I am happy to announce that we have determined that some of those books that are on that list can actually be put back into circulation, with the caveat that some of those elementary books that are there need to go to middle school, and some of the middle school books need to go to high school. Also, just to let you know how we have determined that, we have looked at professional resources. In some cases, we've actually read the book just to make sure that it's compliant with state law. So when we have our additional training with Atrium on August the 5th, we will be that's August the 6th. We will be doing some shuffling of the collections and looking at different things, and we will then make those final determinations about how we are going to fix the books that are on that list. Also, we will continue to meet during our PLCs, and we will be discussing all of this legal legislation. And I know there's other things that are actually upcoming, already being talked about for next year's legislative session that deal with library books and different things like that. So it may change again. This work is going to continue. Our librarians are committed to making sure that our students have the books they need, that they are age appropriate, they comply with law, the state law, and with board policy. One of our largest projects that you're going to be hearing about, that we have already been engaging in and that we will continue to engage in, is to evaluate our aging library collections. Many of the libraries contain books that were donated over the years from various sources, and some of them have not circulated for decades. In fact, there is a book, I believe in North, that's got like a 1929 copyright on it, and it came from the University of South Swanee Library, and it is not age appropriate for middle school. So that's just an example of what's going on. So we're going to weed those books and figure out what we need to get new and updated so that we have more room for good books. Our district librarians are committed to using their best judgment, their knowledge, to maintain the school libraries for our students. My commitment is to support our librarians to ensure that we maintain high quality libraries and that all of our students have access to the books they have, that they need, they want, and that they are age appropriate, and that we comply with state law and with board policy. Thank you. Do you have any questions? If you do, I'll try to answer them.
So first, you said that supposedly the legislature may have more fun library rules in store for us. Do you know what's being discussed?
There is several legislators who are making statements out in the public. This comes from some Tennessee Association of Library people. They want to expand, and then they want to tighten the age-appropriate law. So there's two different viewpoints. Some of them say that it's too strict, and some are saying it's too broad. So that's what I'm saying. Those things didn't even get out of committee this past legislative session, and so, yeah. So we may be dealing with other stuff next year too, but we'll do it. We'll do the best we can.
I just want to say, I love David books.
Well,
I know.
I'm sorry that little fella doesn't have some clothes on.
They just need to print a sticker or something, right?
Well, that was one of the books that, when we saw that it had been challenged in a different state and in some counties, we went, what? And we went and got it, and his little bear bottom is running down the street. So that's considered nudity, and so,
Bare bottom.
yep.
And he's about 3.
Yeah.
And it's a cartoon, it's not a picture.
Exactly, but we did, several states have done that.
Wonderful lessons.
Oh, we know.
But Sarah, if it makes you feel any better, there are lots of books in that series, and I think that's the only one.
That's the only one.
That's in question.
That is the only one.
It's the original, but I think it's
Yes,
the only
it's
one.
the only one.
I love David books, so, look at him like that.
And do you know how many books from the list have been put back on the shelf?
We will, I can't give you a definitive number because it is an ongoing process, and we are still reading books, looking at books, looking up and those things, but I know there's quite a few. And during our training on August the 6th, and also in our first PLC meeting, we will be actually deciding where these books are going, what we're gonna do, and then I will send the information to have the list updated on the website.
That's great. And then also, can you tell me more about so Atrium, this is an organization? Can you tell more about that?
Atrium is our library management system. We contract with Book Systems out of Huntsville, and that's where we have our catalogs, that's how we check out books, that's our records keeping management. And so when this first came about, we weren't sure what to do. And one of our retired librarians reached out to Book Systems and said, look, we need something to help us do this. We need to have a parking garage, so to speak, to put these books somewhere so that we know what to do, so we can go look at them and check on them. And so they had this, excuse me, they had this feature called Quarantine. It was actually brought into play during COVID for materials that maybe had been checked out. We left school, they came back, we didn't know, so they'd be put in quarantine and sanitized and all that kind of stuff. But it also allows us just to have this temporary spot to say, okay, look, this book right here may need to be evaluated further. And so as we started having conversations with ourselves and also with other districts, looking up information from the news media, looking up reports from other libraries, looking at other states, and we were seeing some titles of books that we knew we had in our collections. We said, let's take a look at this. Let's put this in quarantine so that we know to come back and look at this when we have a chance. We didn't know how many we would have. We didn't have a clue of what we had in our collections at that time that might be non-compliant. And so it was a holding area for us. It never actually really removed any books. It's not to ban books or anything like that, and it's not meant to be permanent. It's just a place for us to hold those books so we can say, oh, look, this is okay, and then we'll make a note and we'll put that back in the collection where it needs to go, for whatever age it is.
Because this is definitely like something I've been hearing about from people in my district. And so I guess kind of my follow-up question is, because I know like in our policy, part of the process is if someone challenges a book, it stays on the shelves until the challenge is complete. And so I think that that's been the concern that I've been hearing, that they've been out of circulation while they're being considered instead of in circulation. Can students still check these books out?
They can. We get a notification that they are in quarantine. So if we have not looked at that book yet, we want to know why they want the book, and we'll say, okay, you may check this out, but understand that we're looking to see if this book complies. Now, that's how we handle it in the middle and high school. I'm not sure about the elementary schools as much. I don't know that they actually tell the kids that, hey, this is under quarantine and you can't check this out, or you better consider this. Many of those are not books, though, that are in a lot of demand. The ones that are on our list that we noticed were being challenged. So I don't think it's as much of a problem there as it is in the middle and the high school.
It did seem like an older crowd list of books instead,
It is.
aside from
And that's why we've got this almost slide going up to put the books that are in the elementary schools that are really not maturity level, the correct maturity level, back into the middle school, and the middle school's up to the high school, and we're working to do that.
And so you said you'll also know more after your August 6th meeting, is that right?
We're having additional training from Book Systems. The county is paying for that for us to have additional training. It's an all-day training, and they're going to come and talk to us more. We'll also have a few minutes where we look at the list, we look to see, we share stuff. We go back, we talk, we do this, and then we'll have a PLC meeting, and we will be able to say, okay, these go here and these go there, and look, these probably maybe need to go to a college level, because there are some books in the high school, in my high school collection, that are college level and post-college level that have some very mature themes in them. And so I'm actually reading those to determine, okay, can they stay or can they go? So do they need to go? So we'll have some more of that. We'll have some more reports later.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Next up is Ms. Crabtree with the very first personnel report.
Very first personnel report. You know, we always think things are going real well, and then all of a sudden the revolving door opens, which you can see from this, where we do have some openings, and we just had a resignation today. So hopefully come August the 1st, whatever day it is, we'll have all these filled. We seem to be filling our teaching positions pretty quickly with certified teachers, so I think all that is going really well. So all that information for you all to go over. Employment status, thank you, Brandon. We're good, thank you. Total applications, 148, and open as of July 8th, we still have 24. And that was, let's see, Renee ran this report last week, so that may be down a little bit from last week, but you can see where we still have some openings. I actually think North Lake has been filled, and I think North Middle has been filled, but then you see educational assistants, secretaries, and things like that. The guidance office at Franklin County High School has been filled, so there's several of those that are showing like they're open, but they're not. They have been filled since this report was run. So any questions about that? Maintenance updates. Our maintenance department has been working really hard this summer, and they have made a lot of accomplishments. They've completed a lot of projects. You see the cafeteria at Clark Memorial is 98% complete. Franklin County Library has new carpet. I know you're excited, Ms. Brown.
Now I just have to put the books back on the shelf.
Yes, yes. And then you see the other projects that have either been finished or are in progress. And Mr. Clark's not here, or I would let him address anything. Are there any questions about the maintenance update? You're welcome. You're welcome. And before we get to the legislative summary, Ms. Marheski, Ms. Shields has some exciting news about our Grow Your Own that she wanted to share.
I just wanted to share real fast when Ms. Crutcher was given the update on personnel. I just wanted to share that 5 out of 5 of our Grow Your Own apprentices who graduated from UT Southern in May have been employed with our district. I know y'all have heard me talk about Grow Your Own for several years. I'm super passionate about that program, and it's really growing. 4 of the 5 were hired in the schools where they did their apprenticeship work. One was not simply because there wasn't a position open in her endorsement in the school she worked at. And then just to add to that, we will have 3 more apprentices who will finish this coming May in their second year of the apprenticeship program. And then we have 5 more that are starting in our newest cohort in August. One of those actually has already started and will finish in May as well. So we're super excited about that. Super excited to have them as apprentices and then be able to employ them in our district as well. Thank you.
Excellent.
That's great.
That's it for me.
All right, that brings us to item number 8, the legislative update. Ms. Marheski.
All right, before I get started, I'm just going to take a quick minute to acknowledge that it's the first official meeting for the people in the chairs in their new roles. Dr. Alsop is director, Ms. Crabtree is assistant. So yay!
Thank you.
Okay, so the legislative report. Again, it's summer, so there's not as much going on. But again, for us, but anyone out there also, think about any legislation that we might have feelings about. Maybe something about alternative schools after today's presentation, but is there a resolution that or 2 that we're interested in sponsoring? So it's worth thinking about. I think that we have to have them in maybe by September. So we have our school board legislative meeting coming up this week or in a couple weeks, depending on when board members are going. So again, if any of you out in the audience have thoughts, let us know too. Just how to contact legislators. So the general information about last session. TSBA put together a list of the new public chapters that relate to education in one way or another. So again, if you go to our agenda and you click on the link where it says, if you look here, there's a whole long list and you can learn a lot about what happened. Here, just so some have changes to reporting dates and are kind of small potatoes. now, they banned red 40, now they're banning, I think, all artificial colors in foods that are served to kids at school, if I remember right. Here are a couple more, just to show you, again, the wide range of things. There's another one that will require LEAs and public charter schools to recognize Victims of Communism Day, to honor the people who have fallen victim to communist regimes by providing high school students enrolled in a world history and geography course with at least 45 minutes of instruction on such topics. And another will require each LEA and public charter school serving students in any of the grades K through 5 to adopt a policy governing the age-appropriate and instructional use of digital devices to minimize unnecessary screen time. And we'll see that policy in our thing later. So again, it's a really, really wide array of things that have become law. Take a look in all your spare time. Elections are coming up, and that's the other big news. Voting happens on August 6th in a lot of different races. So there are the primary and general election, primary the primary for governor, U.S. Senate, U.S. House, Tennessee Senate in odd-numbered districts, Tennessee House, Republican Democratic State Executive Committee. This includes in Franklin County, all county commissioners and the odd-numbered school board members. So Sandy Schultz is running unopposed for re-election in District 1. Our fearless vice chair will be departing. Dave Van Buskirk is running for his seat and is also running unopposed. We'll miss you, Lance. I'm Sarah Marhevsky. I'm running in District 5, as is Matthew Hughes, and then Casey Roberts is running in District 7, and Ashley Bowers is also running in that election. Our Representative Iris Rudder is running unopposed in the Republican primary with no Democratic candidate. U.S. Representative Scott Desjardins is on the Republican ballot. Also on that are Thomas E. Davis, Joshua James, and Harold Rocky Jones. And the Democratic primary ticket for that includes Victoria Broderick, Mike Cortese, Cliff Huffman, Tim Lanier, and Joyce E. Neal. And they're sort of the sample ballot there, so you can see what other offices you'll be voting for. Early voting starts this Friday and goes through August 1st. And if you want an absentee ballot, you have to ask for one by Monday, July 27th. Be sure to get out and vote. Federal updates. So the Federal Department of Education, as we've kind of discussed before, is looking to basically send a lot of what it's been doing to other organizations. So they have a press release. U.S. Department of Education announces additional partnerships to strengthen coordination for individuals with disabilities programs and bolster civil rights enforcement. And they say that these changes are designed to reduce federal bureaucracy and improve the efficient delivery of federally funded programs and activities to better support students and families. On the flip side, Education Week's Special Ed and Civil Rights, What We Know About the Ed Department's Latest Moves, reports that in a joint letter last week, dozens of education and disability advocacy groups raised concerns that the separation of special education in Health and Human Services from other K-12 programs, largely in the Department of Labor, weakens the coordination necessary to ensure students with disabilities are fully included in general education. Similarly, the group said, separating special education programs from the Civil Rights Office, which is moving to the Justice Department, could make it harder for federal staffers to ensure that schools are following the laws meant to meet the needs of the nation's more than 7 million K-12 students with disabilities. So again, just kind of two different takes on what's happening. We'll see how this all plays out. That's how you can represent our U.S. legislators. At the bottom, anyone have anything else to add? All right, thank you.
All right, moving on to item I is finance. We have two items. Number one is to receive and to file the June 2026 intercategory amendments. And we notice Ms. Jeannie is not here tonight. She is on vacation. So are there any questions on these intercategory amendments?
Make a motion to receive and file the June 2026 intercategory amendments.
We have a motion by Ms. Roberts. All right, the ayes have it. Moving on to item number 2 is budget amendments, the FY '27 July GP budget amendment. And this looks like it is just our average cleanup that we see.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Ms. Marhevsky and a second by Ms. Lichty. So all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Brings us to new business, item J. We'll start off with the 26-27 sick leave bank trustees. And you all can read those as well.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve by Ms. Lichty,
Second.
second by Ms. Roberts. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Moving on to the 26-27 PECA management team members. Looks similar to our list from last year.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion by Ms. Lichty, second by Ms. Roberts. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. 26-27 discipline hearing committee recommendation.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Marhevsky, second by Ms. Lichty. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. 26-27 annual FC board agenda. We approve this every year. Didn't see any changes on that.
I did have a thought. So first, it says board chairman, and we've sort of shifted to the chair instead of chairman, small. But also, I was wondering if we could work in sort of updates on like the annual or 5-year plan, because I think that's one of the things that we often talk about, how, oh, we'd love to see how these things are coming along. And I'm wondering if just officially putting it on the calendar quarterly or something would help us stay on track and just get more information.
Okay? Are you recommending we hold that until next month?
Yes, or if we can just unofficial, like, if everybody is okay with that, just working it in quarterly.
I think that Dr. Alston work on that and just plug it into the calendar and we'll hold it till next month.
Okay.
All right, so we'll move that over to the August meeting. 26-27 North Middle School petty cash request.
Motion to approve. Second.
Have a motion by Ms. Jones, second by Mr. Cole. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, 26-27 South Middle School petty cash request.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Roberts, second by Mr. Cole. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? 27 FCHS petty cash request.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Marhevsky, second by Mr. Cole. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. The 27 Huntland School petty cash request.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Jones, second by Ms. Roberts. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. FY '26 South Middle School outstanding list of unpaid obligations.
So what are we voting on with these exactly, or what are these?
I think these are the obligations that were, things that were ordered during the 25-26 school year but have not been paid, and they won't be paid until the 26-27 school year.
It's like orders that came in, but funds haven't been.
Yeah, they haven't received whatever.
The bill is. So we're basically, so voting yes to this means,
We're going to pay it with the next cycle.
okay. Always seems like a good idea to
Yeah.
pay your bills.
People tend to like that, yeah.
Okay. Then can we approve the purchases for both South Middle School and Franklin County High School's unpaid obligations?
If you would like to
I
make that
would.
motion, then absolutely.
I make a motion.
Okay, then we've got a motion to approve the South Middle and FCHS outstanding list of unpaid obligations. We need a second. Second by Mr. Cole. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes carried. So now we're moving into the Group 1 policies that are up for a look, and I think if you just click on the very first one, 4.100, I think the common denominator of all these is the definition of sex, and that is line 4 and 5 of policy 4.100. And it is defined as the immutable characteristics of the person's reproductive system that identify the person as male or female as determined by anatomy and genetics existing at the time of birth. And if you'll notice, that is straight from the state law.
I do have a question. So, straight from state law, understand that. You don't have to like it, it's just the way it is. 6.304, for instance, is like student discrimination, harassment, bullying, cyberbullying, and intimidation. And so it adds that, it says bullying, intimidation, or harassment may also be unwelcome conduct based on a protected class, race, nationality, origin, color, sex. It's added, sex shall be defined as the immutable characteristics of the person's reproductive system that identify the person as male or female as determined by anatomy and genetics existing at the time of birth, age, disability, religion, that is severe, pervasive, or persistent and creates a hostile environment. I guess I'm wondering then, if we're only defining sex in that way, what does it mean if there is a student who identifies in a way outside of that? Like, I mean, so in general, is bullying still not allowed because it's bullying?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think our bullying policy says it's okay to bully anyone.
Okay.
But, I mean, I think it's just, that's the definition that they've determined sex to be. So,
anyone being bullied.
it's bad. Anything else? Guess we could, have a motion to approve all the Group 1 policies, since that really is the only update to those.
Correct.
Oh, wait, is that in the other one? Sorry. No, sorry, it's in a later policy, never mind.
Motion to approve Group 1 policies.
Second. All right, we have a motion by Ms. Roberts, second by Mr. Cole. All those in favor to approve Group 1 policies as read, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I'll just abstain.
Okay, no opposition, and Ms. Marhevsky abstains. Ayes have it. Oh, wait. Okay, ayes have it, yeah. Do a little quick math there. Group 2 policies. If y'all want to go through these one at a time, or is there anything that jumped out at anyone?
I just wondered when the tobacco-free school policy changed so much.
Well, and Felicia can jump in on this, if we need to. Mr. Hawkersmith brought this to me a couple of weeks ago. The Prevention Coalition got together, and Brandon, if you can scroll down to the bottom, you see that our policy was short and sweet, and when the Prevention Coalition started comparing our policy statewide, it was not a real strong policy. And so they got a recommendation from the state on school systems that had really strong policies. When Mr. Hawkersmith brought it to me, we tried to start, okay, this is what ours says, but this is what theirs says, and it just got too complicated. I said, Chris, let's just put the brand new policy on top and take out all of ours. So this just basically comes as a recommendation of our policy not being very strong and really trying to get it stronger. Does that make sense?
And the reason is we have to do something to address the vaping problem in our schools. It is a huge, huge problem. We have come up with some administrative procedures, which, those are not approved by the board, to address the problem. Those are going to go into handbooks. But this goes hand in hand with the administrative procedures for the vaping.
Thank you.
I'd made a note for two policies, 5.600, under the red, page 2, lines 1 and 2. Basically, we have a citation of 8, but when you look down, there is no 8 under
I will
the
get that taken care of.
legal
Mr. Williams.
references.
Yes, I will add a,
That's very minor, but.
it is, yes, but I will make sure I take care of that.
And then 6.412, if you read that one, that's the Emergency Allergy Response Plan. And basically, it says that each school shall maintain EpiPens, or in some fashion. So, we did speak with Mr. Hawker-Smith, and he said that we would be receiving 2 EpiPens or equivalent for each school annually at no cost to the district. So,
And with that, I wondered, like, I wasn't 100% clear, so that would only be used on students who have a prescription, or is that sort of like having Benadryl on site, or sort of?
I would say it would be an emergency that someone got stung by a wasp and they're allergic to a wasp, or had an allergic reaction and their throat's closing.
Okay.
I mean, I would say that would be administered by the nurse,
Right.
not a teacher, definitely.
Do the students sometimes have those on their possession
They do.
because they're needed?
They do.
So,
My understanding, they're not supposed to, it's supposed to be kept at the school.
Well, that's, yeah, they don't have them with them. I don't know if they did at the high school, but they do. They have their own prescription EpiPen in their office.
so the ones we're getting through Mr. Hawker-Smith would be like extras or?
But no, they would be the ones at that school, I guess, in case of an emergency for any student. So, and the shelf life on these is 12 to 24 months, just depending on, I guess, the brand. So we could have, over the course of a few years, you could have a few extra more than 2, but, just the goal is to have them there in case somebody has an emergency.
I understand that. I'm just kind of curious as to who gets it, who doesn't get it, and who makes the decision. Like if we don't have notification from home that this child is in need of an EpiPen, and somebody comes in and shows the symptoms of needing one.
I would say the nurse would contact the parents.
Well, the nurse will know. They will know if a student is in anaphylactic shock, and they'll know to administer the epinephrine.
So,
I have a question about the personal and professional leave, 5.303. And I'm seeing that a certified employee earns 2 days for each half year, for a total of 4 days per year. And that doubles the amount that they, where did that recommendation come from?
TSBA. And if
that
you
was
notice-
a new state law.
New state law, but if you notice also, they lessen the sick days. So the teachers used to get 10 per year, now they're getting 8 per year, so this sort of balances that out. I think that someone realized that maybe teachers were using sick days instead of personal days.
What?
I know it, it's hard to believe.
Well, at least the story from TSBA was sort of about the professional development piece, and it was hard, like, if you didn't want to necessarily use a personal day, and then you don't have any personal days left, because you've gone to professional development, which they wanted to encourage, so.
And I
That's-
agree with that, but as they are documented, will it show professional leave or personal leave, or will it matter?
I don't think it will matter. I think in my benefits, it'll be 4 days.
4
Yeah.
partial days and 8 sick days. It's like they've given you, it's like a PTO,
Mhm.
pay time off.
It is.
Instead of just keep everybody honest with sick days.
And what's not used reverts back to sick days.
Correct.
I just like teachers in the classroom or students.
Sure.
I just think it makes a difference. I understand the balance of the days, and if this is a recommendation, certainly I will approve it, but there won't be any restriction on whether or not they use it for professional leave, and I would like to see that. I think that benefits our system, it benefits the classroom, that teachers engage in professional leave whenever that opportunity is taken.
It used to be that we had to determine if it was personal or professional.
And this doesn't read that.
And that, this doesn't say that.
Well, that's an interesting idea.
Any other?
Oh, I got a couple things too.
So you're saying you did that added to that? I mean, it would fall in TSB recommendation. I don't know if Franklin County wants to restrict that or not.
I will say that, you know, when teachers want to do professional development, we don't count the days and say, oh, you've already used two, you can't go to this other one. You know, we do encourage professional development, we pay for it at the county level, so
What percentage of our professional employees actually engage?
I would have to, I can't tell
I
you
think it'd be an
right off.
interesting statistic that might pair with this change in board policy.
I can look at that
I
and
mean,
see.
I'm a big proponent of professional
Absolutely,
development
absolutely.
at every level, in every subject, in every discipline.
I just wanted to note the tobacco policy. I like that there is a piece in there that is sort of to help students like quit smoking or whatever, and that the old policy didn't have that, so I really appreciate that addition, because I think it gets at the root of the problem, right? Like, it's not that they're bringing it to school is part of the problem, but the fact that they're using tobacco is really the core problem, so I think that that's great. And then with 6.306, that has like the classroom evacuation piece, and that parents need to be notified. I'm wondering, and whether we codify it in board policy or just unofficially. Like, I think it would be helpful as a board to get that information on those days too, just in case we hear from people in the community about what happened, and so we aren't in the dark.
Which number was that, Ms. Moransky?
6.306. It's the one with the classroom evacuation piece.
We're actually going to talk with principals at our August admin meeting to see if we can all be on the same page on what that looks like, so that everybody's doing something similar. So we are going to be addressing that with our principals.
Yep.
There was a lot of questions about that one.
I can imagine.
So what you're saying is you would just like to be on that robocall?
Yes, if we could kind of be on that, so we're informed, so the.
You mean the school board?
The
you would
school
like-
board members, yes. Just because sometimes we hear rumors and things and we're like, I don't know. And so just, it helps us, because I'm going to guess if this actually happens in a school, parents may be upset or worried. And so if we know, it puts us on a level playing field and makes us.
Let me ask you this, would it work just as well if Dr. Alsop sends you all an email?
Oh, yeah, that's
Okay.
great. I mean, it sort of doesn't matter how we hear. I would just,
Okay.
I think it would be helpful just to hear.
Okay.
Just for clarification, that's a TSBA recommendation?
Yes.
Okay, I thought so, just wanted to be sure.
Yeah, that's it for me. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Well, I can make a motion to approve Group 2 policies.
Well, we can accept it.
Second.
Can anybody second?
We have a motion by Ms. Leakey and a second by Ms. Roberts. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. That brings us to K, the discussion. Anybody have any discussion items they want to shout out? All right.
Motion to adjourn?
I like your discussion there, Ms. Leakey. Do we have a second?
Great discussion. Second.